welcome to the B School Budget. I'm Shweta Rajpal Kohli and today we come to you from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences or TISS to get a sense of what the country's young and bright minds are expecting from the Union Budget. And joining us here to answer the questions of these young and bright minds, three of the country's finest economists with me here. Sajjid Chinoy, Chief Economist of JP Morgan. Madan, Chief Economist of Care Ratings, and Vivek Dehejia also joins us. He's author of Indianomics and a columnist with Mint. So exciting times really are right now, given the fact that people are expecting this budget to be a big, bold one, a make or break budget in many ways. Let me first try and ask Sajjid if he thinks it's going to be a make or break budget. Too much expectation, Sajjid, from the budget?
Shweta, expectations are high, but I'm not sure this is a make or break budget because that would imply that the government doesn't have any other opportunities to push ahead with reforms. I think it's a very important budget because this is the first full budget of this government, and so a very important signpost to what the government's vision over the next 5 years is.
So you're tempering expectations in many ways, so is the government, by saying it's not going to be a make or break budget. But can I, Sajjid, ask you a pointed question? Is it one of the most important budgets we've seen in a very, very long time?
It is for a very simple reason. The private investment cycle now has been in a funk for the last 3 or 4 years. There is a realization that the public sector needs to step in to build infrastructure, which we had not agreed to 5 years ago. How the government does that while still retaining its fiscal credibility becomes the important balance that the budget has to strike.
All right, Vivek, the developments that have taken place politically over the last week or more, couple of weeks, is, of course, the defeat in many ways, people calling it a humiliating defeat for the BJP, the Aam Aadmi Party's success. Do you think the impact of the Delhi elections in many ways, in any way, will show up in the budget? Do you think there's more pressure now on Arun Jaitley to deliver a great budget, a big, bold, game-changing budget?
I do think so. And in fact, there are two views on this, Shweta. One view is that with the Aam Aadmi coming out, all of these giveaways and promises and so on, that the government will be forced to become more populist and roll back on reforms. But my view is the opposite, that the government knows we can't outpromise and outdo the AAP and the Congress playbook of promises. So we have to press ahead. And I would differ a little bit with Sajjid, and I'd say this, if not make or break, but it's terribly important. So it's sort of one shade below make or break. Because if we wait till, this is now less than a year into the government's mandate. If we wait for another year, then we'll be almost at the midpoint. Now, we've got no assembly elections coming up for a few months, but let's see what happens, in Bihar, but assuming that doesn't go to the polls early. So this is now a terribly important window in which the government can press ahead with important structural reforms and start to kickstart the economy. So I think it's terribly important.
Madan, Sabnavis, we always make the budget, many of us in the media also, as this one big mega event. There's a lot of hype around it. But, in terms of actual, room to do things and make those announcements in one day and to be able to achieve a lot, lay down that vision, how much scope does the finance minister really have on that one day to deliver the economic vision and for the country?
No, I think you rightly said that we make a big deal of the budget, but we should remember that the budget is actually a statement of accounts of the government of India. You have expenditures, you have revenues, and you try and balance them. And then you decide as to what would be the right kind of borrowing program, the fiscal deficit, something which everybody is looking at. So it's more a case of doing good housekeeping. And frankly, I don't think that the budget can actually deliver too much in terms of changing the overall fortunes of the economy. Because some of the best run countries like Japan, US, would never had problems if budgets could deliver. And we've seen that Japan has been in a recession for over 20 years. So I think our expectations from the budget to begin with is too high. So what one should really look for the budget is whether they're able to clean up the numbers. When I say clean up the numbers, is that in the past we have seen that we always tend to overstate the growth numbers. We overstate our revenues. We have certain expenditures which are fixed. And at the end of the year, we say that, look, the fiscal deficit is slipping, and let us start cutting back on project expenditure, which is the discretionary expenditure. So if you can get out of this particular syndrome by being a bit more reasonable when it comes to targeting growth and revenue flows, I think we'd have done a fairly good job.
All right, and now we're going to throw open the house to questions. We know there are a lot of interesting questions that we've got coming up here. Go ahead, you had a question to ask. Why don't you ask the question?
Hello, I'm Suyash. My question is that the fiscal deficit is targeted at 4.1%. That's the point the government is pegged it at. But at the same time, the need for public investment in infrastructure cannot be overemphasized. How does the government walk this tightrope walk, and what is the implications for the government in case it's unable to match this fiscal consolidation, as many economists would want us to,
Sajjid, if you could take that one.
A great question. Both are very important points, and I'm not sure there's necessarily a trade-off. We clearly need more public investment.
Right.
I think from the perspective of fiscal credibility, and given our sovereign rating, it's important to go down a fiscal consolidation path. Markets won't care whether the number is 3.6 or 3.9, but if you stick to your original path, so much the better. And I'm not sure there's a trade-off, because I think what the government can do is an asset swap. There are lots of assets the government has.
Sure.
Stake in public sector enterprises, which is less productive. Stake in Suti, Spectrum, land. What we should see over the next 3-4 years is a programmatic plan to begin to divest some of that stake and directly plow those resources into productive infrastructure creation.
But we've not seen, Vivek, a very good track record so far. The divestment program was a bit of a disappointment this year. They went ahead with Coal India, but it's still not what they could have done at a time when markets were doing well.
No, I agree. I mean, I think in principle, absolutely right, Sajjid, that there shouldn't be a trade-off. In practice, if one can't raise the funds through asset swaps and so on, then you may face a pressure to allow this fiscal target to slip.
All right, the next question there. Yeah.
So this is Amit Singh. So coming from make or break to make in India. See, make in India is the you can say the buzzword in the Modi's government. Without ensuring proper investment at domestic and foreign level, at the same time bringing innovation and R&D in the manufacturing sector is also ultimate requirement. So how Modi's government is bringing the same in this upcoming budget?
All right, interesting question there. Make in India in many ways has become the buzzword. It's the one pet project of the Narendra Modi government that has in many ways resonated with a lot of people. Some are even terming this as a Make in India budget. Vivek, is there room for him to actually give that necessary push in the budget to the Make in India campaign or the entire project?
I think the way I'd put it, Shweta, is that he has to lay out a roadmap of exactly how are you going to incentivize investors, entrepreneurs. So I think the point that the budget is a book of accounts is correct. That one has to, but it's also a chance to tell India and the world that this is what our roadmap ahead is,
right.
How we'll fix all these structural problems. So that signaling is very important, and that speaks very much to Make in India.
Sajjid, how many times will he use the term Make in India in the budget speech?
So Make in India is an outcome,
right?
It's not a process.
Right.
What you need is what are the building blocks to reach that outcome.
Right.
And I think there are two ways to interpret this, which is important. One is, I look at Make in India as Make India competitive, whether it's infrastructure, labor laws, land, power, so people are naturally incentivized to build here. What we shouldn't go into, and I'm hoping this budget will not have, is protectionism. That you make in India by increasing import duties on goods. I'm not sure the government will do.
Sure.
But that's the other way you can make in India. Let's stick to the former, not the latter.
Right. Interesting there that you don't necessarily want to move into the whole protectionist mindset just because you want people to make in India. Go ahead, you had a question to ask.
Yeah. My question, I'm Shashwat, and my question was about the methodology to calculate the GDP. Because now when you're talking about incentivizing the environment to get investments, we are changing the methodology to the base year of 2012 when the manufacturing was pretty low. So that way the numbers will be very high. So who are these numbers for? Was it the big numbers will come for private sectors or it's for Aam Aadmi?
Sajjid, could you break it up for us? And what, because people are still trying to understand. You've even got the RBI governor saying, I'm still trying to study those numbers. How did this happen? Why the need to revise the GDP formula? And why has it led to such a sharp revision in the growth rate?
So first, I think let's be clear, because there are comparisons between India and China. There is no malified intent. What the CSO do is perfectly legitimate. Every few years, you change your base year because you want to reflect the current structure of the economy. This time around, in addition to that, they've introduced a number of new data sources which all in theory look very good. They're using a database which has got access to 500,000 firms across manufacturing and services, whereas in the previous methodology, you had access to 2,500 firms. You're using access to service tax data, which is a proxy for the services economy. So in principle, these are all very good methodological improvements. As it turns out, the numbers that this new methodology throws up is inconsistent with any other high frequency data you see. So when growth was revised up from 5 to 6.9 in last fiscal year, every other piece of data, whether it's import, credit growth, the PMIs, auto production, in fact decelerated that year. So I think there are legitimate question marks.
No, I agree. And I think just to, in a sense, echo and amplify what Sajjid said, I mean, in theory, this is a perfectly valid methodology, but it just doesn't seem to square with other numbers and the ground reality. Two other points on this. I mean, one, the timing of this new statistic is a little unfortunate. I mean, just leading up to a budget, because it creates the sense that things are probably better than in fact they are, in terms of ground reality. So the timing is unfortunate, and of course politics comes into it. Yes. Because of course the new numbers make the last years of the previous government look a whole lot better than we thought they were. So inevitably this number is going to be not just a number, but be about politics.